Hi there, everybody. I am Christina Aldon, and this is Fierce Women TV. Welcome. We are here to talk about the concepts of mentorship, leadership, men as allies. I'm excited today to talk with Miss Sandy Herrera. I'm interviewing her as somebody who has been working with a lot of different schools in Clark County, as well as globally on a leadership level. So welcome, Sandy.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm super excited to have this time with you.
No, it's really great. It's great. Now, you're a TEDx speaker, fellow TEDx speaker, and you do a lot of different kinds of programs in Clark County. How long have you been running Got Core Values?
It's been 5 years now.
It's been 5 years now. So I'm really excited to get into what that process looks like and how schools can become involved in that program. But first, let's talk a little bit about Fierce Women.
Okay.
So as you know, the Fierce Women Project is a mentorship project that I've been working with. We've been piloting in 4 different states now. We've run programs. And, with that, it's the concepts of leadership, mentorship, men as allies, and I know there's a lot of symbiosis with what you do,
so many
right?
layers, yeah. Absolutely.
So let's get into it. What does it mean to be a fierce woman for you when you think of fierce women?
I am so excited that you're doing this work because a fierce woman to me is someone who's authentic, someone who is just living true to themselves and actually taking the time to live consciously and make an impact on the world around them, and knowing that that can be as small as smiling at everyone you know. And it doesn't have to be that you go out and do big global work to be a fierce woman. It can be living authentically and making a positive impact on those around you.
You know, it's interesting. I just had that conversation with somebody about how, if I'm passing by somebody and I smile and I know that I've made their day a little bit brighter, but it's really hard to quantify that, right? At a larger scale, it's easy to quantify, and you can say, okay, we visited X number of schools and we got these results, and this is what the graduation rate is, and all. But for something as simple as a smile, I think that we forget that that's impactful too.
Absolutely.
Even if it's not necessarily measurable.
Absolutely.
Right?
Especially when we look at, I was just reading a study on emotional intelligence, and that by the year 2020, which, oh my gosh, it's so close right now.
Yeah.
So year my son graduates, so that gives me a little bit of a heart palpitation. That by the year 2020, emotional intelligence will be like the 6th most desirable skill in the working world.
Wow. Well, and you see it, I've been called to do training on emotional intelligence in Microsoft offices. I'm very excited to announce I was accepted to speak in Athens, Greece, and I'm going to be doing a workshop.
That's fantastic.
And yeah, I'm really excited about that, and a speaking session at a conference there in June.
Very cool.
So I can see the value in that. And it's interesting because there are a few different models around emotional intelligence, how people teach it and talk about it. But, I have to ask, what kind of training and preparation got you ready for the type of work you do? Because, you're working with leaders and even the students. So it's this top-down approach. Have you had a lot of training, coaching, emotional intelligence stuff?
So I have, and yet I kind of fell into it. So it's not like I planned to be an emotional intelligence leader and coach. I really, when I look back at my life and my leadership style, and I even look back to how I was raised and the types of things that I always paid attention to, and just the nuances of the impact that people have on each other. I think I've always been in tune with that, but I really was never able to measure it or define it.
Oh, yeah.
And then getting into the work with Tony Hsieh and delivering happiness, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit, but that work really helped me put language to what I intuitively was doing, which then helped me amplify it and actually begin to do it on purpose. Yeah. And then ended up in a training class with CRR Global, is a wonderful organization, and their coaching certification is called ORSC, so Organizational and Relationship Systems Coaching. And I decided to join their coaching program and did the full, it was a year and a half, almost 2 years to become certified. And I was connected at the time, and this was, I guess, about four or 5 years ago, that I was one of only 300 in the world. Obviously, they've grown by now to be certified in that.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. That's great. It's interesting how your path kind of moves, right? The universe always just kind of seems to be nudging me in the right direction. If you were to try to
define it, you couldn't. Yeah,
it doesn't, I started out with chemical engineering, and then, my degrees in ecology, environmental sciences.
Pre-med.
Pre-med. I own a digital advertising agency. Now I'm doing FierceWomen, and I it's interesting because people don't call me to speak about SEO, about digital advertising, about managing Facebook, about marketing. They call me about relationship stuff, communication, emotional intelligence. These are really key, important topics, both at the leadership level and at the employee level, I think. So, when we talk about your professional career and how it's kind of woven in different ways, what are some challenges that you overcame, maybe some pivotal moments that really kind of helped define that path where maybe you thought, this doesn't align with what I'm about, or this isn't working for me? What are some challenges that you've had to overcome in your professional career?
I think it even starts before that. The first one that comes to mind, speaking of pre-med, kind of made me think of it, is I started pre-med really thinking that it was what I was supposed to do, was to, you graduate high school, you go to college, you get a degree, you get married, you have babies. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
2.5 kids with a white picket fence.
Exactly, and that 0.5 kid, I was always like, what is that? It's, oh, that's the dog. I get it. And, so pre-med was like, I loved helping others, and I was fascinated by medicine. My dad at the time was a firefighter. He ultimately retired as chief deputy of LA County Fire Department. And so I watched him be a part of that EMS world, and thought that being a doctor would, be a great choice. Well, I got in, and I was an average student. I was a B student in high school, but never really, I don't think I learned how to study in high school. I get into college, and I am taking pre-med for pre-med biology, pre-med chemistry, English, and Spanish. And it's first semester, 18 years old, call it, still trying to figure out who you are. And I got 2 Ds. It was a slap in the face of what? I don't, what do I, it's that whole, I don't know, what do I do? And ended up having a professor of mine, my biology professor, sit me down and took the time with me to teach me how to take notes, taught me how to study, taught me how to overcome that. But then I got to a place where I remember sitting in a study group with some upperclassmen, and I looked at one of them and I said, "How do you fit all this in your brain? I have no more room. I don't know how to do this." And realized I ended up after school hours becoming an EMT, and realized what I loved was emergency medicine. I didn't want to learn about all the microorganisms in the world, and so I took that experience, but really listened to my intuition. I think that was one of the first times in my life that I took a step back and went, what do I want? What's important to me?
Yeah, there are lots of shoulda, woulda. There are lots of people, the world is full of opinions.
Right. Everyone has them.
Everybody has them, and everybody's more than willing to give them, whether they're qualified or not. So, that intuition piece is really important. I also like what you said, because mentorship is a big part of my work in everything that I do, in nonprofits, in my consultancy, in my digital advertising, everything that I do. Were there key mentors other than your professor who taught you how to take notes? Any kind of mentors that really helped impact you now, early in your career? And I wonder, what did that relationship look like?
So I think I've had mentors all along in varying degrees. The there's two that really had a significant impact recently in my life that really kind of shifted the trajectory of not only my work in the world, but who I am as a woman, and really kind of owning my femininity and that side of things. I grew up as a tomboy, not by anyone forcing me to be, but that was my perception of who I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But really leaning into the power of being a woman and the strength that comes with that, and that we don't have to act like a man. We can actually embrace our femininity but still be strong and still be intelligent and still be respected, and so I think there's a balance with that. And the first one is Alexia Vernon, and she, when I saw her speak it was at an Inspire event that I was putting on with Delivering Happiness, and she was talking about public speaking. That's something she's very good at, and it's like, I need to do that. I would get to a point where I would even I didn't even like speaking in meetings. I didn't even like speaking, and so it was this opportunity to go, I gotta stretch here. What am I gonna do if I truly want to do some of this work that I want to do, that I dream about?
You have to spread your message.
I can't be quiet.
Right.
And so really listening to her and learning from her, and having her grace and her presence.
I love the word grace for Alexia, because that just absolutely, in my mind, whenever I think of her, I think of grace. Yeah. And very, very, again, strong in her femininity, right?
Right.
And super helpful, extremely community driven, and she's got some amazing programs. In fact, I think she has a sign up right now for one of her.
She does.
Yeah.
She does.
Everybody, I strongly encourage you to look up Alexia.
Amazing.
She's amazing. And so having that kind of guidance, did you notice a difference in then how your message was received as you were moving?
I did. I talked about this in my TEDx talk, and still to this day, it's still a little sting to talk about. She asked a question, and this was one of the very first questions, homework assignments we had, was think of a time when you first had a voice. And my challenge was that I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
And it was, wait a minute, ouch, that's awful. Like, how, I do? I have one. And uncovering, like, okay, let me flip it on its head. The first time I remember not having a voice, and how painful that memory was as a small child.
Right.
I was maybe 3-4 years old. And it was growing up with an abusive stepfather, and that environment, and realizing the impact that it had on me as an adult, and being able to step back and go, wow, and then actually do the shadow work, as it's called, to process through and go through forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because I believe that everyone in this world is doing the best they can with where they're at. So I had to, offer that same generosity for my past and everyone in it. And also realize that power that I have today comes from that trigger and owning that switch and going, wait, I do have a voice, and it's okay. And I can actually also embrace the past traumas that I've been through in life. They don't have to own me. It's almost
like the empowerment comes from the fear and anger and frustration, and going deeper into it to process it all the way through completely, so you can come out the other side.
I love that you say that.
In a strong, with grace, right?
Right.
And forgiveness.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if we don't allow ourselves to feel, then we're just stifling what our bodies naturally need to do.
And then it comes out. It comes out one way or another.
Unintended consequences.
It comes out in road rage. It comes out in complaining about the dishes. It comes out in complaining on Facebook.
Put the cap on the toothpaste.
Whatever it is. It's not about the toothpaste. Anybody out there arguing with your spouse about the toothpaste, I'm here to tell you, it's not really about the toothpaste. You got work to do. Dig your deeper. So I love what you're saying about how mentors can help drive, and I know we're going to talk a little bit later about the mentorship work that you do. You do customized programs as well. If you had to think about a person, a fierce woman in your life who really impacted you, who would that be? A celebrity? Who's really, when you think of fierce woman?
So I've been thinking about this a lot since we booked this, and I was thinking, there's people like Oprah and Ellen and really strong celebrity women that I know have absolutely made an impact on me. And then I was like, I got to think a little bit deeper. Who is that person that really has guided my deep-rooted strength, my deep-rooted fierce woman?
Yeah.
And it's my grandmother. And I think about who she is, and God bless her, it's been 5 years now since she passed away. And she is actually her wedding ring. My grandfather gave it to her on their 25th wedding anniversary, so I wear it, and it's near and dear to my heart. When my mom gave it to me, I was like, oh, there's so much power in it.
Yeah.
And she didn't go out and make a big stamp on the world. She wouldn't, have even owned me talking about her this way. She would be very humble about it. But she really just had this presence of making a difference in her circle. She was very involved in her community. She did Girl Scouts. She did different community events. I remember we were always going to something within the community.
Yeah.
And this was in Southern California, in Norwalk.
Yeah.
And now I look at Norwalk and I'm like, I wouldn't even know how to begin.
Oh, right.
You look at the greater Los Angeles area and you think about community versus here in Las Vegas. There's such a tight-knit community, and we're landlocked by these mountains as well.
Yeah.
But there was something about her commitment to making a difference for others and really being that giver. And she was so nurturing in everything she did. And she had a fire about her too. There was nothing passive about who she was.
Right, and still really tapping into that divine feminine power, the support, the nurturing, and really at the end of the day, we only can control our influence in our circle and our community. And when I hear people who want to have a bigger impact, I just encourage them to expand their influence, expand your circle. I know you've been doing that. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well, about your global initiatives, which is very, very exciting. We didn't get into it in depth, so I'm so happy to have a whole hour here with you today, which is great. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And I think that also moving into it, let's talk about your nonprofit work and all of the stuff that you've done in Clark County with our schools and how you're reimagining our education system. I would like to see multiple states and all around the nation, multiple school districts using your model because you're getting results, which is great. We'll be back right after this break. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in to Fierce Women TV.